Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr Boyce TV. Here we are.
A healthy heart. I've got my crying towel because this is our party and I can cry if I want to. And I'm so excited to see my Dr. Boyce. This young man, I knew before he knew himself. And so I'm just grateful to God to get to, I hate to admit it, but if we didn't have the COVID, I probably wouldn't know how to do the Zoom. And I would have to wait for him to come in town. So I don't take anything lightly and I'm truly excited. Knowing you, being friends with your mom, we were teenagers, and knowing you before you knew you, because we both were pregnant at the same time. I am curious, knowing when you were born, all the way to right now, because we didn't ask kids questions, but just out of curiosity, what would be your first interior, your heart smile that you can recall? And normally they still make us smile, those heart smiles. What would be your first one?
You know, I was thinking about that. So when you say heart smile, you mean like the first happy moment, first happy memory, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's beyond happy. It's a joy that no matter what is inside. I'm going to tell you mine. I thought mom and daddy liked each other when I was 9 years old. We went to the drive-in, and that still makes me smile. Now, I found out later they tolerated each other. But I remember being with my brother at the drive-in, and I was just so happy. And until I started thinking about a heart smile, that's the first thing that I thought I had the best family at the drive-in. And so something that not necessarily happy, but just brought you inside joy.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the first memories that I can think of is I remember getting a bike, you know, when I was about maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. And it was like, you know, for my birthday, and I saw it and I couldn't ride it, but I remember how excited I was to have that bike. Like that's a good memory. I can remember that. It's funny, I don't remember a whole lot of stuff from when I was like 2 or 3 years old, but I do remember that. I remember that bike, and that was pretty cool. That was exciting.
And I tell you, those heart smiles, sometimes they get buried with life, but they still can make you smile. It's like, because you just smiled right there. I saw it. Well, all right. Yes, sir. So knowing a little bit about you, I try to play back. When did you realize that you liked helping people financially, or that you had a knack for dollars, or to see how that thing worked? What brought that? How did that come about?
You know, I think, well, I mean, just being a little boy, I like money like everybody else, you know, and I remember I liked, I remember selling like candy door to door, and I like that power of making my own money. Like that was a good feeling, you know, and I think that never went away. And it wasn't like I just knew I was gonna be a financial person. You know, I didn't know, you know, it was like I just got to college and you got to pick a job, you know. So I figured, hey, I'll just pick something that lets me get access to money, because there wasn't a lot of money growing up, you know. So it was like, okay, money's good. I'd like to have some of it. And so, you know, it was, but I think now that I look back, it's like a lot of this stuff I figured out later on, kind of looking back. And I do remember, like, you know, I was always willing to work hard for stuff. And I remember when I was in college, I had a lot of friends that would get money from their parents. Their parents would write them a little check every week or whatever. And I wanted my parents to write me a check, and my mama would do it. You know, she would not, you know, she said, go get a job. And And I did go get a job, and actually I really liked that. I'm glad she did that because I made a lot more money by, you know, going outside of the household to get what I
Yeah.
needed, as opposed to depending on my own household, you know. So I became more of an asset than a liability, you know.
That's
So
good stuff.
it led me to grow up a lot faster. And I think, and I feel sorry for a lot of young people who don't get that, because their parents, I feel like their parents cripple them because they just give them everything, and, you know, just play patty cake with them their whole life. And, and then when the real world hits them, they ain't ready for that.
You know, when she did that, I thought she was the meanest. I talked about her and I talked to her. I said, Rob, it ain't right. That's not right. And so I tried it out on Joy, and it worked. And I told her that I was not going to do anything after you got out of high school, and it worked. But when she was doing that to you, I thought it was cruel. But like you said, now looking back, you see that we handicap kids. But she has always been super keen. And I thought, my goodness, Rob, you don't have to be so mean to that boy. But God, won't he do
Yeah,
it?
I believe kids rise to whatever level you expect them to. Whatever your expectations are, they're gonna meet the expectations. You know, like for example, in our household now, this is really, I give Alicia credit for this, but all the kids make straight A's because that's just what we expect. Like, it's just, you know, so every report card, if there's a B on the report card, we're like, what's going on? What happened? You know, and it's just a standard, and they don't know any different. So they meet the standard. So I think we got to think carefully about what expectations we put on the kids.
That's good stuff. I think we just need to think, because sometimes you're surviving and you're not thinking. You're just like, let me connect the dots. But I have seen proof that what your mom did and your determination, and I'm talking to Dr. Watkins. It just blows me away, because I remember when you got your PhD and Rob was like, no, we're going to call him doctor. And how she still nurtured you. You know, she's like, I don't want to hear you out. And I'm like, well, what she did work. So I'm listening to her and call her. Well, anywho, thinking back to when you were 12, what advice would you give that 12-year-old young man?
You know, I think I would probably give him advice to love himself, and to just kind of like really learn. Like over time, I learned really what, like at that time, I can't say I had, you know, a lot of confidence and stuff, but maybe it's just, you know, part of being 12, you know, so you can end up in an awkward space and you don't know who you are and stuff like that. And I think just kind of understanding what, and it's funny, when my brother was 12 and 13, I was giving him the advice that I wish I had heard from somebody, you know. And one of many pieces was just, you know, like really what confidence and self-love really looks like. It's really a lot of it's really a choice. It really is a choice. You know, if you choose to love who you are and embrace who you are, including your flaws, and be proud of that person and be confident in that person, and then commit to doing your best with what you got, you're gonna go a lot further than the people that they are constantly getting in their own way. You know, most of us, we are our own biggest hater. You know, we look in the mirror and we say, well, who are you to think you can do this? You ain't good enough. Well, I would do it if I had this, and I don't, but I don't have that. You know, and I had always had an admiration for those people that would just get out there and just do it.
Yes,
you know, like,
that's good.
You know,
that's good stuff.
Yeah, I ain't perfect, but neither are you. So watch me work. You know, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna do my best. And I just think that's something when I started really embracing that. That's when I'm able to just kind of knock down all the psychological obstacles and just move forward. Just like, you know what, let's just jump out here and just see what happens. You know,
wow.
Yeah. So,
that's good. You said a big word that I think that we don't remember or we don't press into. You said commitment, because that is a huge word that we tiptoe around. We're afraid sometimes to commit to whatever we're doing. And it's not even necessarily an age thing. You know, I started committing at 64 to Healthy Heart, because life just I took so many, you know, but to commit, to have that tunnel vision is important, and to know that you had it and you have it, it just blows me away. Now, let me show you something that I have as a souvenir.
Oh, you got that book.
We went to your book signing at the big, baby. That's my Dr. Boyce Watkins. And I remember Miss Felicia was alive, and we went to, I think it was Barnes & Noble, And we didn't, we Dr. Watkins. And we were just sitting there cheesing. And then I was so excited. But then later on, I have a friend that taught in the school system. She told me about you, and that this young man, she didn't know I knew you, that he was coming in town. I think you were going to speak at the school, and he was going to talk to the students. And how did that feel? Was you like,
how did it feel back then? It's like I can try to reflect on how I felt in the moment, and then also how I look at it now. Like now I look at it and I look at those days and I almost cringe, because there's so many things I was trying to do that I wasn't doing right. And just so many things. I can't even make the list. It's so long. But in terms of that feeling at that time, I remember I wasn't making a lot of money at it, and it wasn't really, I can't say I felt like, oh my gosh, this is just going so well. It was difficult. But when I had the little wins, I really did enjoy that freedom, that freedom from the job, that freedom from, living just off of one paycheck, because at that time I remember I said, I don't mind being here teaching at Syracuse, but I want to do something different.
Wow.
I'm too young to retire. And because I felt like I retired. And I used to call my grandmother once a week, because I said, you're the only other retiree I know I can call in the middle of the day, and then I said, I'm too young to live like this. And so I wrote that book, Everything You Ever Want to Know About College, because at that time I was a much bigger believer in college as the key to success for Black people. I still believe in college.
Okay.
I think that with the student loan debt crisis, is something we have to be very careful about, because what it's doing is people's dreams are destroying their futures, unfortunately, because most Black college graduates are going to die in debt. They're not going to have any positive net worth because the student loans are just so big. So that's a big hesitation I have. But I do think education in itself is obviously incredibly valuable. And at that time, I kind of wanted the secret to be out. I wanted young people to just know that going to college and doing well is really not that hard. And I figured myself, as a person who had taught college students, could give them the secrets, kind of formulas on how to do that. And so I'm glad I wrote that book. It was and that whole experience, it was something else.
And that book I was showing Joy last night is still applicable because it's so easy to read. And so her oldest is 12, and I said, girl, he needs to read, because some pitfalls that you spoke about in there that he could avoid, and it's written so friendly, not that you're trying to sell it, but I was like, Jiminy Cricket, I pulled it out of the closet because I didn't want it to get damaged as a souvenir that this was, Rob's oldest baby, and this, so to show that it can be done. But you spoke about Miss Felicia. She was, oh man, I loved her. She helped me more than I ever told her. And even as she, moved and still was doing her thing and traveling, knowing how richly she loved her family and her family's friends, she didn't push us away. What's one of your fondest memories of your grandmother?
Well, my grandmother, it was very important. From a professional standpoint, I give her, the credit for being that first person to really talk to me about like financial stuff. And maybe it wasn't so much that she went out of her way to talk to me about it. It was that I just noticed that she was just well put together financially. Because, in a lot of our families, we got all kinds of crazy situations when it comes to money. And she never had crazy situations. She never had drama that I saw. At least not that type of drama or any other. Really, now I think about it, she just kind of just handled her business, and I just kind of you take notes. So, one side of the family I had, my grandmother's, the single mother with all these kids, and I never saw her struggle for money. She had that perfect credit. She had money in the bank. And I would see people who made 4 times more money than her going to her to borrow money. And then I saw other people in the family, that actually had 2 working people in the household and plenty of income, but it wasn't quite the same thing. The struggle was real. And that was when I started asking her more, because what happened was I started learning a lot of really advanced financial stuff and information, like out of the textbooks. But I was like, I really want to talk to my grandmother because she's showing me that it's a myth to believe that you have to make a lot of money to be financially secure. It's really about your culture, your mindset, your lifestyle. And that's what so she explained to me, she actually wrote out a list of, 10 rules that she follows when it comes to money. And I don't know if I have it anywhere, I got to go find it. But it was like that kind of very basic advice, literally for somebody who, I think she had an associate's degree, but she never studied finance, anything like that.
Wow.
But she had common sense, and I think common sense is really where it all begins. If you ain't got no sense, then you can go to school for the rest of your life and you're still going to be stupid.
I heard somebody say that common sense is not so common anymore, that we got to take it for granted. But
no, it's not. What's common is excuses.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr Boyce TV.